Good evening. Welcome back to Along Come Norwich. Norwich City have won 2-0. We're talking about another victory in a performance that I feel like it's going to be a lot easier to be more positive about. I left Carrow Road this evening, thinking, that wasn't as bad as what we've seen before. And there are more positives to speak about. There is that question of longevity and sustainability. We'll answer that a little bit later. And to be honest with you, between now and the end of the season, that will be a continued question. But let's talk about today. Norwich City have won, and in my opinion, not in a particularly uncomfortable fashion. I think it was much improved, and it was a much better balance, that keyword being balance there, in terms of attacking and defending. I think there is an element of people, I don't know, maybe getting a little carried away. And I'm basing that off a small minority in terms of social media and Canary Call. I listened to that on the way home. And, there was a couple callers and make of Canary Call what you do. But there was a couple of callers that really were sort of like acting as if the last 12 months hadn't happened. That's certainly not what we're going to be doing. I'll try my best to not be too negative in this short time that I'm live with you. But yeah, a comfortable 2-0 win against a good team as well. I think that really encompasses the championship in terms of the quality. West Brom sit above Norwich fairly comfortably, and considering the quality of their performance when they beat us on Boxing Day, they look like a team who are just better than us all over the pitch. I'm quite pleased with that. But it does, again, speak to the quality of, if you're not in the top two in the championship, if you're not Leicester, Leeds, Southampton, maybe Ipswich as well, then it really, the places really are up for grabs. And David Wagner will be satisfied in terms of being able to continue to say, look, we are contenders in the in this division. And he actually interestingly said sort of whatever that means to you, which is, I think, in terms of from a comms perspective, I do wonder what the actual ambition is. I think it's clearly to sort of be in and around the playoffs and have a go if it comes to it. But yeah, a good win for Norwich City today. That starting 11, I'll make the same point as I did after when Norwich played Hull. It was a very strong one. And when you think about it, there probably isn't too many changes that you'd make in terms of naming the most ideal Norwich City starting 11 with the squad that we have at the moment. Going into the game, the first half was decent. I think Josh Sargent's goal was very good. And one thing about Josh Sargent is that he's really, really quick. I think, having not really seen him in the flesh, especially because I wasn't at the Southampton game, but having not seen him in the flesh for such a long time, you forget that burst of pace that he has and how good he is with the ball at his feet. His finish was, it almost seemed like an attempt to put it straight at the goalkeeper, and it still went in. But it was a good, quick, fast move. And I'm kind of getting the vibe that a lot of people think that maybe this is a bit, a performance that we haven't seen too much this season. But that goal, for me, Norwich City have shown multiple times this season they are more than capable of getting the ball from one end of the pitch to the other in a very quick fashion, in a slick fashion. That's quite pleasing on the eye, and then scoring the goal. They've done that quite a lot this season. It's just the defensive side of the game that's been the issue, and that was the same for, in terms of the quality of the goal, that was the same for the first and the second, which we'll get on to the second goal in the game. But the rest of that first half was, I find it tough, because we made this point after Hull where Norwich City are trying to find that balance between scoring lots of goals but not conceding too many. This David Wagner system is very clearly reliant on scoring goals and scoring more than you concede, which I know is football. But finding that balance is, today seems like it's the most it's paid off, in terms of on the back foot. When West Brom had the ball, which they had a lot of the ball, it didn't really look like we were too troubled, to be honest with you. Which, does it speak to the quality of West Brom on the front foot? I think there was a good couple of chances that they had, but they just kept sort of steering them wide, which I'm kind of like, chances do happen in football, so it's tough to criticise from that perspective. There's no performance, unless you're Manchester City playing against someone in the lower half of the Premier League. You are going to concede chances. That is part of the game, and Norwich never really looked too threatened today. I do want to mention the fullbacks today. I thought the fullbacks were really good on the front foot, especially in terms of the final cross, which is ironic because Junior's got the assist for the second goal. There's a lot of work to be done in terms of the quality of that ball that goes into the box. But on the front foot, going forward, Norwich looked a lot more menacing from the side. Janulis again showing glimpses of the quality that he does possess. The centre backs today I thought were decent. Duffy and Gibson, all right. Sarah in the middle, really getting stuck in. You can really see how he's integrated into the English game, because he's really picked up on that. Well, if you just back into someone and drop to the floor, you win yourself a free kick, which again speaks to the quality of him and the way he's adapting to the game. It was interesting to me that Nunez didn't start because of the impact that he had, and the fact that the impact he had against Bristol Rovers, I should say, but also the fact that we're at home, and I thought maybe we try and be on the ball a bit more, but I guess with McLean's legs in midfield, it certainly helped. Ashley Barnes was okay. He does a job. It's interesting because when you take Ashley Barnes out of the team, you do notice his absence. But when he's on the pitch, technically, that's not really what he's there for in terms of his technical ability as a footballer. But when he was taken off, you almost miss that presence of carrying the team forward that he has, and the ability to just throw himself around. And yeah, I'm doing my very best to be as positive as possible. West Brom, as I said, on the ball weren't particularly effective. The game plan in the second half clearly switched to they'd identified that Norwich aren't great at defending crosses if you get a chance to cross the ball. And what was, I think his name's Daryl BK, came on, and they tried more crosses, and the crosses were decent. They found who they were looking for, but again, the defensive, what's the word? Solidity, is that a word, that Norwich possessed was quite clear, and there was never particularly much threat. But that second goal really encompasses what Norwich can be about if they want to. And the frustrating part is you see how simple football is sometimes when Norwich score a goal like that, where the ball goes from right back straight to the middle, straight to the sort of left flank, back in the middle. John Rowe scores. John Rowe, absolutely on fire this season, of course. It really frustrates you, doesn't it? Because it's just like, well, why can't we try and do that more often? But I mean, that's, a team at the peak of their powers aren't going to be scoring those sort of goals, relentlessly, are they? Because it was a well-constructed move. And it then raises that question, is that WAGNERBALL working, which is the title of this video, WAGNERBALL? Because the plan worked today. The plan worked. And then the conversation should turn to, well, what is the plan, and how sustainable is it? How aesthetically pleasing is it? Because at the end of the day, football is an entertainment. But it does then raise that question, as I said, of is it that, or is it the quality of the players perhaps shining through? And yeah, I think Connor always makes a good point. I was just watching his match review before going live myself, and he always makes the good point of this squad is better than what people have been rating it. And the worst of times, I think I've given it a bit of stick, but there is quality in that squad. There's a lot of it, and moves like that prove, with a good bit of effective coaching, they can do some very interesting things, and things that are quite fun to watch, because that's what it's all about. A couple of comments. First one from Sam: stick with Wagner till the end of the season. Yeah, I think that's kind of looking like what's happening. Then a complete reset no matter what. That's the interesting part. I don't know whether it's sort of Stockholm syndrome, in terms of it's clear that he's not going anywhere. But I do sometimes, especially after today, when you see a couple of good goals where the football, wasn't the worst to watch. It was almost aesthetically pleasing. It does beg the question, well, hang on a minute, is this guy just doing the best with, and this is a bit strange to say just because I have just said there's a lot of quality in the squad, but is he doing the best he can with an aging squad? You look at that defence, it's not particularly easy to play out from the back and play football that starts from the back and is really effective with the defence that we have, especially the two centre backs. And I often see sort of that, I see a lot on Twitter that people say Ben Gibson isn't as bad on the ball as what people make out. I'm one of those people that just thinks he's really not very good at all. I thought he was decent today, for the record, but is he just doing, David Wagner that is he doing the best he can with the squad that he has? Or is it the squad's quality shining through at the best of times? It really is just a tough debate that most Norwich City fans are having. However, this it's the first time that I've left Carrow Road in a while where it felt like everyone was satisfied. It felt like everyone was convinced as well. That's the key word. And following this Daniel Farke era of being convinced and this whole style stuff that we always prattle on about, it's the first time that you've really seen that bar that has been raised. It's felt as if it's been matched, if that makes sense. I'm not saying it necessarily has, but the expectation versus results, this style of play versus results thing has become such a hot topic in the past few years for Norwich City fans, and today felt like the best attempt that there has been at sort of mixing the two, and the two sort of find each other. If that makes sense, I sincerely hope it does. It does in my head. Norwich City find themselves facing, let me just get them up here on my phone, Leeds away on Wednesday, Liverpool, of course, and Coventry at home, QPR away. And to go into that run where Leeds is not going to be an easy game by any stretch of imagination, and perhaps you'd go into that game thinking Norwich City are nowhere near the favourites. Liverpool again. Norwich City have put themselves into a position where I think it's probably the best position that they can be in, given the context of the club, the style, the management, all of that. They've put themselves into the strongest position they can to go into those games. If Norwich can strike up the balance they have today against Leeds, where defensively they're a lot more resilient on the front foot, they're a lot more effective and efficient, then who knows what could happen. You know, Leeds is a great example. That game we played this season at home against them so far, of in the first half, Norwich were really slick and effective on the front foot. And effective is that word I like to use a lot, because I don't want to sit here and say it's like Pep Guardiola type stuff, but it is effective. It gets the ball forward, and it's quick. It's very pretty at times. That, and you know, that sort of game, I remember watching it thinking, oh, this is clearly what this Norwich team is capable of. We can see that at Elland Road, but blended with this more defensively able / willing, committed even. I hate it when you describe a team as committed, because it shouldn't ever be a thought to think, oh, that team is rather committed today, because they should be all the time. But football's not that simple, is it? If we can see that blend against Leeds, and who knows what can happen. That's me being awfully positive, which is a good thing. Canary Jerry says, good game today. Plan is playoffs. Yeah, God knows what will happen if we get there. You can see how Sargent and Barnes play together. Yeah, I agree with that. It's such a weird one, though, because I just think I'm always thinking about the longevity of things, and that's been a thing for a good while now, in terms of seeing how sustainable things are. And Ashley Barnes isn't particularly sustainable. I think he's decent. He's a good option. He does get the team moving, and he probably is a key part of this style that David Wagner wants to play. But when you've got someone like Adam Eden now, who's returned to the bench and not rotting away, but having that growth sort of stunted, it does frustrate me a bit. And Canary Jerry, as he always does on Twitter, gives it the bizarre. I think that probably is it. I think, yeah, positive ending for me. A positive ending for today's video. David Wagner's interview quickly was interesting. As I said earlier, this idea that almost we define success is how I interpreted a lot of what he said, and I think he's almost sick of the local media in terms of the nature of the questions, because, to be fair, I think if I was David Wagner, I'd be sick of it. However, I always think the questions have been reasonable and fairly understandable. But yeah, positive endings for this video. We'll see what happens on Wednesday. Fingers crossed for a positive result. I just want to say thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, thumbs up. Comments down below. Always keen to know your thoughts, as that is why we make these videos. But until next time, we'll see you.